One of my students is having an issue with the GrooveFunnels ActiveCampaign integration. It's not passing the name field, and she's had some other intermittent issues. So I'm going to show a solution to connect ActiveCampaign using the POST URL integration that uses the form's direct link and sends the data that way instead of using the native integration. And it's just another option for those of you guys that might be having trouble with the direct integration. So we're going to use a basic form. She just has a first name and email. So for starters, I'm going to head over to ActiveCampaign and I'm going to go to Site. And I'm just going to build this form out so I can take a look at the source code. So we're going to go to Forms. And I'm going to create a new form and just call it LF form. We'll just go with the inline. And then you want to add your action here. We're going to subscribe to a list. And you can also add a tag if you want. I'm going to add a tag and say L test. And you can add additional actions. You can add a tag, you can add to a deal, email results, and subscribe to a list. So a lot of flexibility here. This is all done inside of ActiveCampaign. And then we're just going to create the form. And we just want to have a first name, so we'll come over here to the left and we're going to use the standard fields. We just want first name, and that's going to replace the name field, and email. And then we want to, before I do this, I'm going to actually set up I got a thank you page here, so I'm going to grab this URL, copy that. And then back in ActiveCampaign, we're going to go over to options. We want to open a URL. So when they submit the form, we want it to go to the thank you page. And this is where we tell it what the URL is going to be after they submit the form. So this is a very important step. Otherwise, it's not going to send it to the right place after they submit. And we can just confirm here. You can also add your actions here. So if you missed it in the first step, if you want to add a tag, I can add another tag here. So let's say I want to add another tag. So LL test 2. So now I can add 2 tags. So that can all be set up here or there. And one other thing, this is really important here. Allow blank fields to override existing field data. I would uncheck that. Otherwise, if somebody was to submit a form and you had some blank fields on there, those blank fields are going to erase any data that you already have in there if that contact already existed. So in this case, both of these will be required. It's not a big deal, but I would just get in the habit of doing that. And I believe that was, let's see here. So these are our opt-in confirmation. We want to turn that off as well. That's a double confirmation. So if you want them to have to open the email and then click to confirm again, you can set that here. In my opinion, it's going to lower your conversions. You probably will have higher quality leads. So that's really up to you. I usually leave it off. I want to keep it as simple as possible for people to opt in, and then just save that. Okay, so then we go to integrate, and we want to copy this code here. And you want to open a code editor. I'm using Sublime Text. If you're looking for a free code editor on PC, you can use Notepad++, or on Mac you can use Atom. Those are both free. You could use a basic text editor. It's a little clunky, so a code editor would definitely be better. And then what we need is we need to go to just the form part of this, and we're looking for a couple things here. So we're looking for all of these hidden fields at the beginning of the form. So you can see here we have let's see, where's our form tag start? So you can see here we have our form tag start. I'm just going to delete everything else because we don't even need to look at this. So we really want to have from the opening form here to the closing form, and then we'll just delete everything else. Just get it out of the way so it doesn't distract us. And then just inside the form tag, you'll see these hidden inputs. We're going to need to copy all of these. So let's just make a note of that, and then let's copy this action URL, and you can see the method is post, so that's what we're going to be using for our post URL. So let's head over to GrooveFunnels. I'm just going to make a new page with a form here. Just going to make it really straightforward just for the purpose of this demonstration. I'm going to use an empty block. And ActiveCampaign does have an integration. We're not going to use that now because we're not using the direct ActiveCampaign integration. So we want to go up to Forms, and we want to make sure we grab the empty form wrapper first. That's going to be where we're going to place our form fields. So we need 2 input fields and a submit button. And we need to make sure that they go into the form container. And if you look down here in the breadcrumbs, you can see our input is indeed inside of our form container, so we're okay there. And I'm just going to style this first, and then I'll duplicate it. That way we're not styling it twice. So I'm going to add a little bit of a bottom spacing margin so that when we add our second container, it's going to push that out a little bit. And just for the purpose of this, I'm going to make the background white, and then I'm going to give it a little border. We just want to keep this simple, but border color, I'm going to make it a light gray, and then the width is going to be 1 pixel. Okay, and then in the block, I'm going to just set that to a lighter background color as well. Let's make it a light bluish. Okay, and then for the configure, this first one is going to be, let's look at the form again, first name. So for the placeholder, that's what shows inside of the form, gives people a hint on what they're filling out. And you can't see it here, it's kind of blocked. Actually, we need to update, so let me add that again. So first name, update, and we'll be able to see that here. So basically with the first name, the placeholder, when somebody clicks on it and starts typing, that disappears. So that's just kind of a clue. So if you don't want to have the label showing, you can do that. Now to get that value, we're going to head back to our code editor, and we're going to look for the first name field wrapper. So we're going to look for that input. So here is our input, text name equals first name and placeholder. So I'm going to copy this name here, and then we're going to go back over to the editor, click on the form, and for the input name, I'm going to make it first name. I'm going to use the same thing for ID. You don't need to do that, but you can call it whatever you want, or you don't have to use it at all. And then we're going to add a validation here just to make sure that someone's actually entering text in here, and we're going to make it required, and I'm going to update that. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to duplicate this and do the same thing for email. So for email, it's most likely just email. So we've got our input here. Placeholder is email. I'm sorry, our name is email. And so let's head back here, and for this second one, we're going to change it to email, change the ID to email. And for this, we're going to say email. We're going to change the input type to email. That just allows you to have some validation, so it doesn't check real-time emails, but it makes sure that it's formatted as an email, and then we'll update that. And we have to add 2 more things here. We have to add our submit button, so let's do that first since that will be the easiest. So back to the form section, we want the submit button. There's another button type, so you want to make sure you're using the submit button within the form category here, and not the other button type, which is standard buttons, so they act differently. So click on the button link, and we're just going to style that a little bit really quickly. Going to add a little bit of spacing, and I'm going to center it and make the font a little larger. Okay, then I'm going to go down to layout. I'm just going to call it a block, and then set the left and right margin to auto so that we can center that. Okay, and then we need to go to configure, And for here, we're going to say, get your copy now. And then on submit, we can decide what we want it to do. This is just submit. So this one, we don't have many options. You can reset the form or submit. And again, we're setting the redirect link was set up inside of ActiveCampaign. Once again, going to update that. And then we have one last step to do before we can test it out. We need to copy those hidden fields here. So we're going to go down to code embed, and we're going to add that to the very top. And again, make sure to look at the bottom and make sure that that is inside of the form container. So let's click on that, and you can see it is inside the form container. So let's go back to our code. We're going to copy these 7 hidden inputs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we copy all of those, and we'll go to the open up the embed code, paste that, save it, and we have one more step to do. We have to click on the form container. So if we click back in here, and we can see also that our form submit button did not make it into the container, so that's really important. We need to get that inside the container. Okay, so now we can see the submit button is in the container, and then we have to go to the form container and configure that. And for integration, we're going to select post, and then we're going to come back over here to our ActiveCampaign embed code, and we're going to copy this URL once again, and then head back over here, and we'll just paste that in here. I'm going to select enable form validation and update. And now we can test it on the front end, make sure it works okay. So let's publish that again. And once we get the green go ahead, we'll just go over to the front end and we'll do a quick test. Make sure our information is heading over. So I've got this populated already. I added the plus here, this extra information, so that I can have this be treated as a unique input inside of ActiveCampaign. So my email is info@alphablossom.com. By adding this plus and this extra information here, I have the date and time. It basically treats it like a new lead in ActiveCampaign, so I don't have to keep coming up with new emails. And I want to refresh this page because my space is not there, so I know it's not the right one. Okay, so now I've got my name, I've got my email. Get your copy now. It should submit me to my thank you page. Perfect, that's working great. Now let's head over into ActiveCampaign. So let's go to the home page inside ActiveCampaign, and we can see that I've got somebody subscribed a minute ago. Let's click on that. And we should have all of our information here. So we've got info 2021 at 6:34 p.m. at alphablossom.com. We have the name, Tony Testing, and it actually breaks it down into, that's all considered first name because that's the field that I'm using. And you can see our tags are added. This tag was set up in my automation, so anytime somebody's added to this list, this tag is added. These are the 2 tags that we set up during our form configuration. So it's working perfectly. So that's really how you would do it with the post URL. Again, just a quick overview. You will go to your form container down below, click the edit pencil here, and in configure, you want to use post URL. So you want to use the URL that's provided by ActiveCampaign. And then in your embed code here, you want to use all of the inputs that are hidden type that are at the top of your form. And then the rest of it is pretty straightforward, just like any other form to set it up.